Let me go ahead and welcome everybody to the last of our 2025 All Access meetings for CoHE. Welcome. Glad to have you all here. I hope your end of year, end of semester time is going well, and I'm thankful that you're able to take a little bit of time to spend together. I always enjoy learning from my colleagues all over the country in honors. So we put this topic together, but because and I'll share my screen here in a second, because it kind of on the spur of a moment about a year ago had a conversation between uh, us here at Houston and Arkansas and Central Florida about, hey, do you have any students who want to go with us? And then we realized there are lots of question marks that follow that question. And we thought, hey, let's make this a more systematic discussion about um, how do we want to try, and then how would we go about trying, either on a one-off basis here and there or in a more systematic way, coordinating honors study abroad experiences based on what we're already doing at each of our institutions. So with that, let me share my screen and then I'll introduce Marty and Jenny and get us started. Many of you, most of you will know Jennie Popp, who is Associate Dean. I won't have the title of perfect, but Associate Dean at University of Arkansas and the founding operations manager for CoHE. She's taught Haley and I almost everything we know. And then many of you also know Marty Dupuis at UCF, also associate dean there, and I'm associate dean here at the University of Houston. So the our goal, or at least our proposed goal, and we might, shoot this goal down by the time we're done, but maybe not. Our proposed goal is it possible, or can we make it possible for students and respective honors colleges and programs as part of CoHE to participate in each other's study abroad experiences? That's the kind of framing that we're talking about. And as I said, it comes from kind of haphazard first attempt, about a year ago that didn't go anywhere, by the way. But we realized that we had a lot of questions that would need to be settled if this would be of something of interest and something desirable for each of us to offer our students. Um, we know we're kind of in um, space that is already familiar territory in non-study abroad kinds of ways. So, CoHE's one of its affiliate groups is the Collaborative, and they, for the last 3 years, have been doing the Justice Challenge program in which students from, is it 20, 30, 40 honors colleges and programs have been participating in colloquia in the fall and then signature experiences in the spring, followed up with a culminating kind of research conference presentation part of that experience, focused on issues of climate justice, food sustainability, and I'm blanking on what the first year was, Heidi. But having students have collaborative opportunities to learn and to grow together and really get to know each other at some levels. And then we're also building, I think, off some other precedents that exist in at least specific states. Marty was sharing with me that in Florida, and Jenny was sharing that in Arkansas, there are some opportunities for within honors within the state, or even across universities beyond honors, to have participation in study abroad programming, and maybe also study away programming. So it's been done before is the answer, in at least certain ways. So I'm going to turn it over to Marty to take it from there.
Great. Thanks, Jonathan.
Yep.
And we started to think about how this could be structured, and we developed three models. There may be more from our brainstorming, but as Jonathan was mentioning, certainly the first one is someone has a study abroad program and they'd like to include additional students, either to make the program run or because it just would be interesting to have collaboration from across other campuses. So if there's a faculty-led program that is already, in the works, and there's opportunity or space for others to participate, it might be possible to invite our colleagues to join that program. That's kind of an easy fit, we think, it could be an easy fit. We'll talk about some of the challenges that make it a little bit more interesting. But, many of us, or some of our institutions, have had study abroad programs that don't make because we're just a couple students shy. And so this would be an opportunity to bolster study abroad at our home institution, as well as to collaborate across honors campuses. The second possible model could be to develop an study abroad program collaboratively. So maybe we choose, a theme or a destination or a service project, a community, and we come together and share our expertise. We maybe create the classes collectively, teach them together so that all of our honor students from across the country are coming together in one classroom. And then we, go to our destination and run the program as a team taught interinstitutional class and program. And then a third possible model might be that some of our institutions have honors abroad centers. UCF, for example, has a center in Barcelona, a center in Rome, a center in San Jose, Costa Rica. We could have honors programming at a center in one of the great cities of the world, where we, again, either work collaboratively on the classroom curriculum, or we invite all our honor students to join us at the center. So those are a couple ideas that might help us think about how could we structure something like this. And then in discussion, we might find even more possibilities. So the next slide is some of the challenges that we identified just from our early brainstorming. And we can talk more about how to overcome these hurdles. But one of them certainly is how are faculty compensated, which faculty participate. At UCF, we're a unionized faculty as well, so there's possible collective bargaining agreements. So compensation for faculty leading these programs would certainly have to be understood and worked out. How is the program paid for by the student? So which tuition does a student pay? Obviously, for our students that are going to a program out of state, there could be additional cost for out-of-state tuition. Do you have to be a non-degree seeking transient student to participate? So how is tuition addressed? This would certainly be a factor. Study abroad programs obviously have logistics with travel and things like that, liability and insurance. Who covers that? How is that covered? How is that paid for by students? Those would have to be considered as well. Then the classwork itself, the coursework, how is that accepted by a student's university? Is it transferable? Does it count for honors credit? Does it count for general elective for the student? So who issues that credit? Is it the host institution? Is it the student's home honors college? So those would be factors that we would have to consider. How are students selected for the program? Are they admitted by the host institution, by our own home honors college again? Do they have to be admitted to the host university's institution as well, even just to participate? And then finally, it'll make a difference again whether our honors programs have representation at the faculty and staff level in each of these programs, or whether the host institution is taking on all the responsibility for teaching and logistics, and how do we partner kind of with these different opportunities with some of these variables that would have to be addressed. So it sounds a little daunting at first, and it may be, but I think there's a lot of opportunity still in looking at this kind of collaboration. So we look forward to continuing to explore opportunities and challenges. And I'll turn it over to Jennie because she's talked about some case studies with her study abroad people that might help flush out some of these ideas.
Marty, thank you for turning that over. Marty just gave you a number of hurdles, but one of the things I want to start with is there are hurdles, but there's good news. Now, Jonathan and Marty and I got together to talk about what we were going to present, and we all said we wanted to talk to our study abroad people, and Marty got to his first, and then he sent me an email and said, hey, I think my study abroad person knows your study abroad person, and I checked, and sure enough, they did, and then my study abroad person told me they knew Jonathan's study abroad person. And so to me, this is a really good thing that they're as connected as we are, so they can be part of the solution because they can talk to their counterparts in the language of study abroad that we may not speak as the honors folks, that can really help solve some of these problems. So I sat down with our study abroad director and I said, can we just work through a couple of scenarios focusing on the faculty-led programs? Like Marty, we at University of Arkansas have a center abroad. We have one in Rome, but the way ours is set up, individual students can't apply. Cohorts from other schools can, but that's a very different thing than what we're talking about here. So we focused on study abroad, on faculty-led. So we said, all right, let's just look through three cases quickly. Let's say school B, and we'll use Jonathan as the example since he was trying to get this going last year and contacts UAF and says, can your students participate in the Houston program? No faculty in this case from University of Arkansas would be involved. So at University of Arkansas, the answer would be, of course, and this is how we're going to handle it. We will advertise Jonathan's program on our study abroad site as a viable study abroad program. As long as we've vetted these programs, with you ahead of time, they will be placed on our study abroad office website. We will have people in the Honors College that can, if you work with us ahead of time, that can help talk to students and answer some questions locally so they don't have to be given all to you. But when it comes to the student actually applying and handling all the logistics, etc., we would push that back on the home school. So we would tell our students to apply through Houston, go through Houston's process, and follow Houston's rules under these scenarios. And if there was tuition to be gathered there, we would probably prefer that the tuition was done in the summertime. So for example, with some programs, students take a class in the spring and they will have their coursework done in the spring and then travel in the summer, not enrolled in a class. And that's very understandable in a lot of places where the consideration is, well, there's more scholarship money available in the spring and not so much in the summer. At Arkansas, we're flipped. We have a lot of scholarship money available to our students in the summer. And in order for them to be able to get our money, they have to be enrolled in classes in that summertime. So we would hope to work with Jonathan or every other school and say, either allow our students to enroll in tuition in your school in the summer, or we will just have them enroll here and do that. So it's a very doable process. If in case two, U of A was leading a program and we wanted students from another school, we would just flip it. We would ask you to advertise the program on your website, and then we would take care of the application. I learned at University of Arkansas, if a student from another school wants to apply to one of our programs, they will have to request admission into University of Arkansas as a non-degree seeking student. It's a hurdle, but it's a small one. And again, if we're just talking about a handful of students any semester, the Honors College would help with that process, right? But then they would follow our rules. We would take care of them fully in terms of logistics, and we would work with the homeschool about tuition again, what's going to work best, because we're not looking to necessarily make money off of your students. We just want to see a program run. Now, the third case is the one that got me most excited. Let's say that Jonathan and Marty and I all together wanted to do a study abroad program, and all three of us want to go. We want to have students there. It's wonderful if we can have 3 or 2 schools or 3 schools participate together and work with the third-party provider who would be the one to figure out the logistics. And in order, as you may know, when you work with the third-party provider, that makes a program more expensive. But the more students you have going on that program, the cheaper it is per person. So if one school, maybe it takes 15 students to make that program to make a program fee that seems reasonable to the students. Well, it's a lot harder for one school to come up with 15 students than for, say, 2 schools to come up with 8 each or further. In this case, if we had a faculty member, let's take it back down to 2 to make it simpler. If we had a faculty member from University of Arkansas and University of Houston going, we could say, great, we'll each come up with 8 students. We can each even come up with slightly different requirements for our students, but they would all pay through their own school, who would then pay the provider, and then problems with faculty salary go away, because each school would be responsible for the paying the salary to their home faculty member based on the number of students they get. Now, what if, let's say, Jonathan's unable to come up with enough students? I've come up with 14 and Jonathan's only come up with 2. Well, in our case, University of Arkansas has said, we would be willing to absorb, if Jonathan then wasn't given permission to go because he couldn't get enough salary money, University of Arkansas would be still willing to absorb Jonathan's students and take them. And we would hope that the flip would happen, that if Jonathan got 14 and we only got 2, I can't go anymore because my salary's not covered, but hopefully Jonathan would absorb our students. I think these sound a little complicated, but actually I think they're very workable. It's just a matter of getting, from the beginning, it will be important to get the honors faculty and the study abroad people at each institution together from the beginning so that we can all understand what that case is. So yes, case 3 is when faculty from each college or each university want to work together to take students. And I think that's the ideal case, so that the students can benefit not only from students at other institutions, but they can also benefit from the leadership of other faculty at other institutions and learn from each other. This case 3 eliminates issues with tuition and faculty salary because each school is following their own guidelines. They just happen to be working together and doing the study abroad program at the same time so that it makes and it's affordable. So you can think of it as one joint program or even 2 parallel programs that are going through the same study abroad experience abroad together. So those are just some simple case studies. What we learned from that is that there's a lot of considerations, but there's a lot of opportunities. So I think at this point, we want to open up a discussion to ask you what you think the opportunities are. And the first thing we wanted to ask you all is, other than that list of hurdles that Marty had identified, can you think of anything else that we hadn't thought about that might be an important consideration before schools try to collaborate on study abroad. And you can either just raise your hand and Jonathan's going to monitor this or put a comment in the chat. Anybody have any thoughts on that? I see a hand up with Bryce.
Yeah, go ahead, Bryce. We can't hear you, Bryce. I'm not sure why.
Sorry, my MacBook picks the wrong microphone every time.
Yeah.
I'm the director of global learning and internships in the Frederick Honors College. I am a split role between our global experiences office and the Honors College. And one thing I would encourage everybody to just make sure that you're checking in with your study abroad offices on is any types of logistic proposals or health, safety, and security requirements that are required as a review before programs are offered. We, like most schools, have a very limited list of programs that we allow because they've been vetted both academically and from a health and safety perspective. I would imagine that if all of our institutions are vetting these programs through our own legal counsel, that we're not going to have trouble with that back and forth. But it is something to consider, and that I know, at least at Pitt, can add some time to getting a program approved and published on our website.
One of the things we'd have to then figure out, whether it's, two schools together or something more broad, is, for example, could I give, I have to submit one of those to my study abroad offices and it gets approved. Could I submit it to your institution on my forms and have you review it? Because I'm sure the content is more or less the same. Richard.
Yeah, thanks very much. Really helpful conversation. Richard Bodenhausen, Dean of the Honors College at Montana State University. I have a question and then a comment. The question is regarding the goal. I just want to make sure I understand what's motivating the goal, because we skipped past the motivation piece. Are we trying to create capacity in our own study abroad portfolio, or are we trying to create additional demand for our existing programming, or both? That's my question. And then comment, I wonder if it might be valuable to consider a fourth possible case added to Jennie's list, which is to gather together a number of CoHE institutions, create a consortium and approach an attractive international site, a university, which might be interested in having a pipeline of honors students on their campus every semester. So the goal there is just to scale, to create efficiencies, given the complexities of the one-offs, many of which you've shared. And there's already a model for that at Glasgow, which has worked pretty well. I'd be interested in maybe hearing some comments on that possibility as well. Thank you.
I think that's a great idea. I mean, what school in the U.S. is working with Glasgow? Do you know?
Yeah, I mean, I ran a previous honors college that was part of that original group that approached Glasgow. The idea being, look, we each are going to have 3 or 4 students who'd be interested in going to Glasgow each year. So if we have a consortium of a dozen institutions who approach you, we can guarantee we're going to have 30 to 40 students. Will you create a curated experience? And that's been going on for 15 years or so. And I think it's a good model, because a lot of the complexity that's baked into the one-offs don't exist once you get those MOUs in place. Mm-hmm. And it's easier to talk about in terms of recruiting students, because, of course, you have this known experience. Every student who's come back has had an amazing experience, as opposed to, okay, one day we're going to Cuba with University of Arkansas. Next semester, we're going to study in Antarctica with University of Miami. So anyway.
To give you my answer to the first question, and then I'll call on Pearl. I think the motivation is both supply and demand, right? To use Houston as an example, we have a number over time, some one-off programs, and then we have some ongoing programs, and we try, I'm not saying we're always successful, but we try to have them where we're, some are cultural, historical kinds of things, and some are research based, and some are service learning kind of based. And then, obviously you've got the globe, but we can't either supply nor um, have an adequate student demand to have, every type of program in every location for students of all interests. And so a little bit of both would be my personal answer, Richard, to your first question. Pearl?
Hi, thanks. Jennie called for other concerns, and I'm just going to kind of play the devil's advocate, worst case scenario. What if I take students from UK? I'm the associate dean at UK. I take students to Costa Rica on a sustainability course, and I have some students from Arkansas, and the students, for some reason, click in their cohorts from the different schools, and there's somehow, some kind of not getting along. Or what if there's a sense of it, my students are going to listen to me and follow my instructions, but students from some other school might not have the same investment in working with a faculty member in quite the same way. I think honors, I have a great experience working with honor students, and I think these are unlikely scenarios given who our clientele is, but I just, it did pop into my head. So just throwing that out there.
I think it's a real concern. I participated in a study abroad program that was just run by U of A faculty, but we had faculty from 6 different colleges. And even on campus, students from College A were not listening to faculty member from College B. So I think that is a real concern, but it's something that can be set up and discussed ahead of time. I didn't want to go through a lot of details, but one of the things we said at University of Arkansas is we may require students that go on programs like this to enroll in 1 credit hour at U of A, our students, if they go on your program, Pearl. And that'll be part of the consideration of their grade. I would serve as just as an instructor of record, just to help hold feet to the fire. And we're fortunate that we have sufficient funding that shouldn't be an added financial burden to our students, but we would want to put things in place to make sure that they are good citizens abroad and good academics abroad.
It's a good point to raise.
Yeah, if I can just elaborate, the other thing is that we sell our undergraduate education abroad programs. Part of the selling point that we make is that you will get to know and get close with other honors students and an honors faculty that you will then know when you get back to campus, right? It'll be this community that you'll have, and those are friendships that you'll keep throughout your college years. And that faculty will be someone, I write a million letters of recommendation for my students. I'm sure you guys do too. That won't be as intense, right? I mean, if I bond with the students from the University of Arkansas, I still won't run into them. They can't pop into my office. They won't, and I do wonder, I'm sympathetic to the issues of wanting to guarantee a pipeline of students. So my program is always going to run, and I'm not going to have that anxiety coming down to the wire about, will I get that final student to make it go? But, I do think, we might want to talk about, are we in any way shortchanging the students of one of the values of study abroad as honor students, which is that cohorting that happens. But again, I don't want to be Debbie Downer, so I'll stop.
That's a legitimate point.
Mm-hmm.
But too, I think it's a really good point, but also by expanding a student's network for research opportunities, for REUs, for graduate programs, there could be some connections that are made by having that kind of collaboration. So I think, I also find it very nice to have that kind of camaraderie with my study abroad participants, but I can see where expanding that network could have some value as well.
I think the key is in how we advertise and what we promise is that, or what our goals are for different groups participating in that.
Leah, go ahead.
Thanks. I was just going to add that I think there's a lot to be gained from honor students interacting with each other across institutions. we have certainly seen that in the Honors Arkansas collaborative courses. And then UCA has also participated in the Justice and Equity Honors Network with Barrett the Honors College, the Frederick Honors College, and the CoHE at CUNY. And there's just a lot of benefit in that. The UCA students realize that, being from Arkansas might not be the disadvantage that they think it is when they get to interact with students from New York or Pittsburgh or, Arizona or whatever. So I personally think the benefits of that kind of collaboration far outweigh any potential drawbacks.
I want to point thank you, Leah. That was great too. I want to point or draw out a couple things from the chat. Maybe Kara and JD could both comment on on lessons that they've learned from the WSU and UI collaborative or the cooperation and JD's combined program as well, if y'all are willing to share some more.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So my name is Carol Welch, and I'm with the Education Abroad office at WSU, Washington State University in Pullman, the main campus. And University of Idaho is 8 miles to the east of us. So we collaborate quite a bit. They have collaborative courses that students can take from one university at the other one. So this isn't much of a stretch. We work with the same provider, Select Travel. We work with Matthew Squire. And each institution has its own contract with the provider. But Select Travel will give us the scaled pricing by combining our cohorts. So we'll bring at least max 15. They'll bring max 15. The programming is extraordinary. It's not an honors program, but it might as well be. And I think that the quality of programming is one of the reasons why, and the fact that there are 2 cohorts that bring the price down is one of the reasons that this program is always successful. I mean, I hear people concerned about not making numbers and programs not running. This is a huge concern of ours also. And I love the idea of a consortium. I think it's very smart. And I think that that's, from the institutional perspective, it's probably going to greatly facilitate replicating program models, if that makes sense, and scaling. So from the contractual perspective, as long as there's no money changing hands, it can be so easy to build that kind of a relationship on paper. So I want to encourage your exploration of that. And if I'm happy to answer any questions if I didn't explain things to your satisfaction.
I have one quick question, and
Yeah.
I want to see if JD pops up or anybody else. When I've done study abroad, I will often have a spring class, and in preparation for summer travel, and I have reasons, pedagogical reasons, substantive reasons for that. In your case, do you have students registering for classes, participating in class before the travel? And is that then, a hybrid kind of class? And then who do they pay tuition to?
Excellent. So every student is going to pay tuition to their own institution.
Okay.
And because this is a spring break course,
Okay.
it does have a 3-credit full bearing course tied to it. And I like this situation because those credits are included in the 12 to 18 credits of a full-time student. Whereas at WSU, at least for summer faculty-led programming, students are going to be paying by the credit. And in addition, the tuition is in addition. That's also how faculty are paid. I mean, faculty who are 9-month, 12-month faculty are not paid. But yeah, I can appreciate the desire the need to add course bearing credit to that kind of a program. And we have summer programs that also are tied to 1 to 3 credits in the spring semester. Education abroad does not manage those credits though, because they go to the Pullman campus, right? Whereas in the summer, our billing, our revenue is going to go through the global campus. I mean, that's just the vagaries of our, you know, so, but yeah.
Jonathan?
Thanks, and thanks for the discussion. Kara, I was going to ask this question to you since you're working in that education abroad space.
Mhm.
So the National Student Exchange and Reciprocal Exchange is run through our education abroad program here. My sense is that it's usually for study at the other university, but it sounds like based on what you're describing, would it work to set up something where a student is doing reciprocal exchange or national student exchange, but the course that they're doing at the other institution is this study abroad?
I'm not sure I understand the question. It sounds like we just changed models here from faculty to bilateral exchange or
Well, what I'm wondering, so in the example that Pop gave, like if this is a course that's being run by University of Arkansas, and my Texas A&M student is doing reciprocal exchange at University of Arkansas, but the course that they're signed up for is actually a course that's abroad, would that work? Because then they're paying their tuition and fees here.
Mhm.
But then that they're getting that study abroad experience somewhere else. I'm not sure that it makes sense, but that was a connection that I was trying to make.
I'm not really sure how to answer that. I uh if we're talking about an exchange situation, that's generally by definition, the home institution is going to keep that tuition and send the student abroad.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. But it's reciprocal, right?
JD, it sounds like he's in Europe as we speak.
Yep. Hi, everybody. Yeah, for 5 years I ran a joint program between Mizzou and another institution in New York, and because of it was such a deep interest to the faculty member there and myself. So we were going to The Hague and we were combining everything except for the students who were enrolled in our own campuses. And so there was no, now it sounds like some schools are going to mandatory third provider. We didn't have that expectation. My colleague and I co-planned it. We co-made the arrangements. We build everything out separately to the institutions. And so it didn't seem to have any of the impediments that might be present if you go in other directions. And I do want to say, I mean, at the moment I am with Education First here in Stockholm, and in the first year of a program that they're piloting on. And I know they've spoken to you, Jonathan, about this, piloting with involvement with the Nobel prize ceremonies and the Nobel Week and all the other things here. I just want to share. I mean, that's no small. Having EF involved is no small difference. It will come out to next year, as I'm projecting to send students into the program. It's going to come out to a close to a $12,500 difference when you start to add the provider fees and all of that. So I think that that's something where this idea of a consortium could work. I think it's just a matter of each individual working with their schools and being able to float people into that consortium. But the real thing for me for study abroad is if you want long-term success and you want to be able to do it for a reasonable amount for students is you need committed faculty who are willing to do it year after year, and it's an involvement for them, and it's a deep passion for them, because otherwise, you know, if you try to place faculty in and out too, at some point you're not going to have faculty. Some faculty will say you'll end up with a summer where the faculty will just like won't materialize. So I'd be kind of concerned about that as well. But I mean, I'd have to. We don't have a current study abroad director at Rutgers. We're in the search right now, but I'd have to talk to them to make sure that we could do it without a third provider.
I would just add, JD, I totally understand that. When I ran study abroad for 5 years, it was just faculty led, no providers. But University of Arkansas would not allow us to do that now. The first way that they vet study abroad programs, whether it's one of our own or one that they approve of, is based on health and safety and liability issues. And if it's a faculty-led program, it must have a third-party provider. There is no wiggle room whatsoever. And in fact, one of the things that we've been told now is that regardless of which program a University of Arkansas student goes on, whether it is an exchange, a direct enrollment, a third-party provider, one of ours, all of our students pay a insurance fee through University of Arkansas. They may be paying twice. They may be paying through their other provider as well as us. And when I asked why, our director said, well, if they're going through, say, a World Strides program and they're paying the insurance through World Strides, if something happens in that place, it's up to World Strides to get them home. Our hands are tied. But if we have them pay insurance through us, University of Arkansas can take action immediately and get them home. And the program, whatever insurance we're using, I think it maxes out at $40 a month. So for a lot of programs, that's still very affordable. But that's non-negotiable at our institution. And I'm learning that third-party providers, even for a faculty-led, are becoming non-negotiable at a lot of places.
Thank you. Bryce?
Yeah, so JD, I appreciate that. And it's one thing that I think most of us in the education abroad world struggle with is that additional cost. Where we're finding success at Pitt, not just within honors, but across the institution, is establishing university partnerships, not necessarily just in an exchange model, but also universities that accept enough students during the terms that they have a robust infrastructure like a third-party provider would for faculty-led programming, who are then able to provide that support. And we've seen some really high quality academics come out of that and significantly lower costs as well, like half as much as some other quotes that we've gotten. So one thing that we might want to continue exploring too is how we can utilize the existing relationships that we all have with overseas institutions who are willing to take on some of that custom and faculty-led program development.
Yeah, I agree. And to me, it just continues to highlight the importance of having our on-campus study abroad experts helping us navigate this world, because they will have colleagues that know of things that are not happening at our home institutions that may work for a lot of us. Well, I want to keep us on schedule here. What do you think? Are there opportunities for collaboration, and when and how should we do this? I don't know how many people are going to Hiru, whether there should be a group created, maybe a committee created out of CoHE that would want to be the next steps to explore things. What are your thoughts on that? Anybody interested in being part of a further conversation?
Yeah, I'd love to be a part of it. And
I would be interested. I'm Felisa Higgins from the John Martinson Honors College at Purdue.
If you're interested, can you put your names in the chat? Maybe that'll be the best way for us to capture that. And maybe you want to put your interest, are you interested in faculty led? Are you interested in a consortium? What kind of interest do you have? And Jonathan, what do you think would be once we have a list of names here, what do you think our next steps should be?
That's a good question. I think a couple possible paths could be out there. One we have affiliate groups in CoHE, and those who are interested could use the CoHE Connect newsletter platform as a means to set up and advertise affiliate group meetings to help work this through, and then whatever results could be advertised back through that. And of course, we can have other all access meetings, right? We can, if there's some work to be done, then a group that did that work has plenty of opportunities to report out through this virtual space that CoHE is. I know that Tara and her team have the Hiru program almost done, so I don't know if they could add another one, but maybe if we ask nicely. Um, and then of course if they're I'll call them bilateral specific relationships that want to happen, we can use CoHE Connect as a means. If there's enough of them, Haley and I could talk about how we might even add another section to that newsletter, like we have the job opportunity section, for example. And you say, hey, I was going to make a bad joke about dating online. Anyone interested in going to, Paris with me? Um, uh, 1-900, whatever. Anyway, we could think about that, but I will maybe at least a ad hoc short term for now affiliate group that gets together independent of our all access and deans and directors meetings might be a good next step. Jenny?
I think that's great. I don't know if, since Houston's controlling this Zoom meeting, whether Jonathan, you or Haley can download the chat. There seems to be a great interest. Lots of
Yep.
names are being put in there. So
I
maybe.
just saved it, and
Right.
do you want to take the lead in organizing that next thing, Jenny?
Sure,
And I can.
I can send something, we're getting close to the end of the semester, so how about maybe mid-January? I'm not sure when everybody's back to work, but I can send out an email and to everybody who's in this chat who expressed interest, and we can figure out who wants to lead this charge and take it from there. But I think this is a very worthwhile discussion. I hope this is something that, I think the Hiru agenda is pretty set at this point, but
Yeah.
hopefully some of us that will be at Hiru can find some time to grab a coffee or a drink and talk about this. It'll take us a little while to get this right, but really appreciate all of you who have experience with these things that can help guide those of us that have never done anything across university. I just think this is a really unique niche that honors across the nation can provide to our students that will just strengthen honors education even more. And I really appreciate Jonathan and Marty coming up with this topic for us all to talk about today.
And we've got a few more minutes if we want to keep discussing it. But I've saved the chat, and I'll pass that on to Jenny then for follow-up in January.
Good. Any other thoughts from anybody before we sign off?
Heidi?
This has been wonderful to listen to and hear about. And some of the things that are listed as hurdles seem to have been resolved by many institutions. And it seems to me that maybe each of us asking our institutions how they would handle a trip that was offered by another would be a next step before a meeting, because then we know what kind of hurdles we are actually facing, if any.
Yeah. And I would ask those of you who, to your point, Heidi, I think I would ask those of you who are interested in this, if you can ask your study abroad professionals if they'd be willing to be part of this conversation too, so that we can include them in those meetings, because I really think we need them to make sure we don't misstep. We've been very fortunate at University of Arkansas to have great folks keep us on the straight and narrow, because faculty like to do lots of crazy things, and they help make sure that we're staying in line. So I think that would be a good add.
And I'll pass on to Heidi, who's about 15 feet away from me. I happened to mention this to Maggie, who's the head of our learning abroad. And she said, "Oh, yes, I'm interested. Let's talk."
Great.
Oh, I have to save the chat again. Anybody else? 30 seconds. I'm going to save it one last time if you want to put your name into the list for me to send back to Jenny.
Oh, and a shout out to Carl and Eileen that are doing a study abroad session at Hero. So we'll definitely be following up with you for sure. That's wonderful.
Yep. Okay, and we'll keep the room open here, but let me bring our session to a close and thank my colleagues, Jenny and Marty for the time and energy that they put into starting the conversation. I think there's real potential here. Some of it is easier than probably the three of us were thinking, and some of it may be harder than what the three of us were thinking. But to go back to the question about motivation that Richard gave us, I think that matters. And but the answer might vary from one relationship that emerges to another. Okay, so that's the end of the calendar year for CoHE, but not the end of CoHE. I want to point you to the next All Access meeting, which is January 8th. You likely have the calendar invite, but we'll also, of course, send out reminders in which Pat Akos and Talisha Adams from the University of Tennessee will be leading a discussion about and extracurricular requirements and their appropriateness or best practices in honors education. And then we've got a slate of other things going on in spring. The other all access is one that's in February on honors curricula. So, and then we've got deans and directors, and then we get to see each other. Hopefully, almost all of you will get to head to Arizona next summer. If you have not registered, I'm not 100% sure, but I think there's a deadline coming up that will save you money, or at least really help Tara and her team know what's happening. So don't forget to register for here if you haven't already done so. And we'll all look forward to that. So with that, I'll bring it to close, but not
That
move on
deadline
to
is
the Zoom
that
meeting.
deadline. You are absolutely right. That deadline is a week from today.
Excellent. But I might be right. But so save yourself money or help Tara, whichever the case may be. Thank you, everybody, and I hope you have a happy holidays and a great new year.